It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woo-hooer, a hand clapper, a high-fiver? If you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. Choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
The following podcast is brought to you exclusively by the Rad Rob Radio Network.
Welcome to Straight Up 5 with Johnny Petraglia Jr. This podcast is hard-hitting, in-depth, cutting-edge look into the sport of bowling. You will get unfettered access into the mind of one of the most gifted bowlers of this generation, who just happens to be the son of a living legend. So, without further ado, let's introduce you to the host of the show, Rad Rob Francois, Dr. Ocho, and the incomparable Johnny Petraglia Jr.
Hey guys, welcome back to Straight Up 5 with Johnny Petraglia Jr. As always, I am your humble host. I'm not really humble. I mean, I already lied. We're 5 seconds in, and I'm already bullshitting people. You know what happens, Ocho? Anytime I speak, people stop listening, and the show instantly sucks. So I need you and Johnny Jr. to kind of bring me back up. So
have you noticed that with just this show or all your
every single show? Yes, correct.
Right, but you still speak. So I have one question. Can you tell the audience? I just want one bit of news that's unfettered that maybe I missed. Was there an unfettered bit of news? Because it says it in the title. It's unfettered.
Are you saying we fetter everything then?
I don't know. I don't know what has been fettered or unfettered, and I want to know which is which.
Well, we definitely didn't vet anything because you're here. So there's that.
I'm not a veterinarian. I have a doctorate, but that's a different.
No, you're a vet. You served in the Merchant Marines.
I did not.
Or was it the Salvation Army? I don't remember.
I was in the Salvation Navy, actually.
That's what it was. That's what it was. Yeah, but you guys couldn't swim, so it was weird.
That's why we use canoes. And you're a douche canoe, and you're talking still. Why don't you get the show going and talk about vetted stuff rather than unfettered and fettered and Eddie fettered?
This is episode number 20. I don't know how. It should be 24 or 5 by now, but, I'm lazy.
But you spoke, and then we had to cut all those out.
Yeah, pretty much. Joined, as always, by the Ocho. And the most handsome bowler in the world. Straight out of Las Vegas, Nevada. To say that this man is a friend would be...
Oh, Christ.
Not right, because, we're just acquaintances. So.
Exactly. And you're already losing subscribers as you're talking more. Like, this isn't you're not introducing a freaking boxing match here.
Do I self-sabotage?
From Las Vegas, Nevada, the most handsome bowler in the world versus... Just give him a freaking intro. Let the fans know.
I'm enjoying it.
Fun club music in full effect. Where Emmy, Kelsey, Danielle,
and from Las Vegas, Nevada. 6'5", 275.
Fun club's back again.
Johnny Petraglia Jr. What's up, Johnny?
Man, that was one of the best intros I've ever received.
See, there you go. Fuck you, Ouch. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
That's the way to start the show.
What's up, Johnny? It's good to have you here, buddy.
It's great to be here. It's great to be back. A lot of action going on in the bowling world.
Yes.
Currently, at the amateur level, and obviously with the tour in its full swing now, we're going into the second major of the season already. It actually just completed. So, yeah, I got a lot of thoughts on this past week's show, and let's get into it.
So, last week, my internet got fucked up, and I do apologize for that. We had an outage in the area. Ocho did not offer to fix it like he normally does.
I was pedaling.
My wife accidentally held down the reset button for 30 seconds, which apparently factory resets the modem and goes back to the original network name and password. So when the internet came back, none of my devices were working what I had renamed the internet thing as. So
as you kept typing in like Popeye's #1 as your password,
Yeah.
You're going, why isn't it working? And then it locks you out if you try and do it so many times.
Right.
So now you're thinking of the old ones, Taco Bell one, Burger King one, Sweet Tea one, and like none of them are working.
None of them. So I got on the horn with AT&T and spoke with a lovely lady that works there. At least I think she was a lady. I don't know. She might identify as something else. But she worked me through it and says, somehow your modem got factory reset. And I'm like, well, I didn't fucking do that. I wonder what happened. So naturally, I told my wife what had happened, and she had kind of a sheepish grin. I'm like, well, what did you do? She said, well, somebody in the Facebook group told me to hit the reset button. And when I hit the reset button for a second, it didn't really do anything. So I just decided to hold it down for 30 seconds. So she was the reason why we didn't have a show last week. So I completely
Pretty significant jump, to jump from
think?
just like a couple seconds to 30.
So I asked
Think
the same
about how
thing.
long 30 seconds is when you're just standing doing nothing.
Oh,
I
I
asked
know.
the same thing. Like maybe 10 would have been suffice. Like
Yep.
I forgot. Did
Yeah.
she fall on it? And then I've fallen and I can't get up kind of
Right,
thing. Like
right.
this is
Was she baked out of her mind and like staring at something on the floor?
No.
She's been
married to Rad Rob. So she was not only baked out of her mind, she was who knows what else.
The only thing she's involving baking with her is cookies. She doesn't do any drugs. So
Shocking.
yeah, anyways.
Just saying.
We are back. We have a lot to talk about. Last week, we were going to cover the Players Championship, so we're a week and a half behind or so, but we're still going to talk about tonight. Interesting show coming off the heels of what Sean Rash had said that we covered in depth a couple of weeks ago on TV, and they actually asked him about it, Johnny, and he kind of was, a little bit nonchalant about it, like, yeah, it was good to have an extra few days off with my family because of his suspension or whatever. And, he was ready to get back to bowling. And, I think the reporter asked him another question about it, and he didn't really seem like he wanted to talk about it. So
He told the line kind of what it did.
Pretty
right?
much,
Like he just
yeah.
was like I'm we can make something of this. But I'm not taking back what I said, and almost acceptance without the guilt, I feel like.
pretty much. Johnny, what do you think about the way he handled the situation over the last couple of weeks?
I thought that he handled it as any good professional would.
Yeah.
He could have he has his thoughts. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. We expressed our opinions on how we all felt about it, and so did everybody else in the bowling world. But I think he handled it like a true professional. I don't think that Sean has always. I don't not think this. So let me just start that one over.
Okay.
Sean has always been wonderful with kids. He's always been the first guy that wants to have some sort of scholarship event going on for the benefit of kids everywhere. So I like the fact that they showed that piece on the show. I think that was kind of trying to smooth over the people that were pissed at him for what he did.
Yeah.
And I think to him, everything transpired as it should have on the aftermath. And I still think that Sean is happy with himself partially for doing it because he thinks that he's the reason it increased ratings. So, yes, overall, I think he handled it like a perfect professional, unlike when he did it.
Have you
I did
happened to talk to him at all, or did you talk to anybody else about what they thought about it?
He did send me a message. He did send me a text message because I did something I don't normally do, and like I said, I posted something on Facebook, not my own post. I commented on somebody else's, and about 40 minutes after the show, I got a message from him, a text message that says, "Saw your post. Do you want to talk about it?" And at that moment, I didn't want to talk about it. I was heated. I was, it would have been an emotional decision or emotional response if I had contacted back. So I kind of just let the dust settle there with him. But he did try and reach out, which I thought was pretty cool. And then the other named players that wanted to maintain their professionalism removed their posts, and I think it was all pretty much brushed away by everybody else. It's been less talked about now that it's gone by. So no, I still haven't contacted him back yet because, truth be told, I don't want to hear his explanation about it.
Right. You just want to let it go and just pretend it never happened?
Yeah, I've done fucked up shit too. I've just never done it on a national telecast.
I don't know that you pretend it never happens. I almost feel like the respect level comes in where it's like, look, here's my say, here's your say. Because I don't have your back at every moment doesn't mean we're not pals or something like that. And it probably will. Honestly, you're going to come across them and you're going to probably have a 3 or 4 minute conversation about it. And it's probably just going to be, oh, well, here's what you did. And he's going to go, yeah, I know. And you're probably right. And you're going to go, but you still stuck with your convictions and you turned it into something else. So good on you. And there's going to be that mutual respect regardless. Not that I'm predicting, but it's going to happen.
Makes
I'm
sense.
telling you that.
Yeah, I mean he'll be out here in March or early April for the Masters, and I'll be in the arena bowling anyway. I'm pretty sure I'll see him when we get here. One of us will approach the other. I'll probably have him over the house for dinner. So that's kind of the way it works there, but maybe not this time. We'll see.
Well,
I got to figure it will because again, it's not like you're not a schlep in the bowling biz either. Like he clearly wanted your opinion. I don't mean it like that. I mean like he thinks highly of what you think is more than what I'm saying.
Well, plus they're friends, and Johnny was kind of upset with his Facebook post. So as a friend, he just wanted to know, dude, what the fuck? What was that post about? So I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
Oh, he knows what it was about. That's just it.
Yeah. Well,
It wasn't.
I should have just gone. I should have gone directly to him. though. I shouldn't have even written what I wrote. But
yeah,
it's over. It's done.
Yeah.
And
he was the number 1 seed for the tournament finals at the Players Championship. We started off with Tommy Jones taking on Graham Fa in a pretty good match. I thought these guys were going head to head for a while. Johnny, who do you think had the overall advantage throughout the tournament? A lot of lefties were there. Graham obviously being the only one to make the cut. Are there certain houses that you're aware of that have maybe distinct advantages or maybe certain patterns that might be advantageous to righties or lefties?
Oh, absolutely. There are, first off, there's bowling centers that characteristics and, traditionally just are better on one side than the other. The most recognizable one is the National Bowling Stadium. That is a lefty sewer, if you want to use a bowling term. It is, if you're left-handed and there's a tournament in the National Bowling Stadium in Reno, it doesn't matter what pattern they put down. The lefties are going to roll you over.
Thank God Roy Munson was righty then, huh?
Yeah, 1971 Iowa State champion.
Wow, man, good on him. Fucking hey.
Ocelot, Iowa's finest.
Good job, guys. Well, here's kind of what I'm setting up. I don't understand why, and maybe they do it on every show, but why do the bowlers on TV this year in the 2 tournaments that we've seen have a different ball for each lane? Like on the left, they'll start out with a pitch. On the right, start with a pitch black, and on the left, it'll be a Spectre.
Well,
if the patterns are the same, what's
No, their patterns were different at the Players, though, weren't they?
is that why? Maybe I missed that part from commentary.
yes,
I don't know.
The right lane was
A short pattern, I think.
Yeah,
Chameleon?
Earl Anthony. I'm sorry. Yes, chameleon pattern.
Oh, fuck, I can't believe I got that right.
And that's 37 feet. And then the dragon pattern was on the left lane, which was 45 feet.
Okay, so that's not normally a thing, or do they do that for all TV shows, or?
No, they'll have like a specific dual pattern tournament here and there.
Okay.
But no, for the most part, no. That's not typical of a PBA telecast. But yes, when you have that different of a motion that you're trying to create, or that much more oil on one lane as compared to the other, that's why we have all the bowling balls we have. So they're designed to hook more, or less.
Tommy Jones was throwing the vaunted purple hammer on the right lane, which apparently didn't make that much of a difference. I thought it was funny that he pulled it out, given that Sean Rash is in the tournament. He maybe had the chance to bowl him later on. I wonder how that would have gone, but I didn't know that there were 2 different oil patterns. I must have missed that with commentary. And by the way, commentary sucked.
It was another issue,
for lack of a better term. I was not.
Speaking of commentary, you just said purple hammer and pulled it out in the same sentence.
That's
so,
true.
I don't know if we're talking about onlyfans.com or whatever.
No,
but
we're talking about my Thursdays.
Oh, right on.
That's
Right. Well,
yeah, that's true.
That's a good point. We've seen the video.
Yeah, I don't even know how to segue.
No, it was the double pattern, the urethane
Gotcha.
and whatnot. And
in any event,
I'm still trying to get my brain back to the Players Championship because there's been.
well, yeah,
So I have to remember the show. I remember TJ bowled Graham Fa. I'm
Yes.
pretty sure Graham Fa won the first match.
he did. Yes, he did.
He did.
Then he took
And,
our.
oh, that's right. He was throwing the Quantum Evo, and he had the front 9, I believe,
yeah,
against
duh.
TJ.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. Now I'm getting back.
yeah,
to
and
the
all
show.
the commentary cared about was this Pabst Blue Ribbon freaking
PBR
nonsense,
6-pack
which
for
is
$1,000.
yeah, 1,500 actually. I thought it was.
No,
Good
1,000.
spot.
Oh, maybe because he got after the first. Maybe because he got 9. I guess I don't know.
Right, when they miss, it goes up 500.
That's what it was. Okay, that makes sense. See, they don't do a good job of explaining this stuff. I didn't particularly care.
Well, apparently
for,
they didn't do a good job of explaining there was two freaking patterns because you missed that.
and they don't do their math right either. Like, both of them. Like, it's like, oh, he needs 9 to fucking win. Oh wait, no, he needs 8, and he needs to make at least one of them to win. Well, which is it? Like,
That's the most frustrating thing to me. But I know where the booth usually is set up. It's usually set up down lane somewhere off to the right. I don't know if it's changed.
yeah,
But unless they are always looking at a scoreboard, there's no scoreboard in the direction that they're facing. So I guess what irks me is because
But
I'm
they have
such
monitors, though.
I was gonna say, I assume it's on a monitor.
See it. That's
or
I don't mean to
statistician.
cut you off, but
But
only
even-
because
but
ever since
even-
you mentioned this, I noticed it. That's the only
Yeah.
thing. You mentioned it a few weeks ago, and now I'm legit noticing.
just hear me out. Well, hear me out when I say this.
Okay.
Go for it.
The box that they put in the lower left-hand corner of the screen that shows 4 frames and then the max score. How does anybody that's not a bowler know what the fuck that means? You don't even see.
Yeah.
You can't see the numbers under the X
Prior or
slash the
anything.
dash
Yep,
or the O. It's just okay. And if I see he has 18 in the first and he has 36 in the second and 45 in the third, I'm a bowler, so I know he went spare in the first frame, 8 spare in the second frame, and he got probably 9 out in the third frame. So now he's got 45. So, but if you're not a bowler, you have no idea what that means.
Right.
Rochelle's not a bowler. I'm talking to her about the score the way I expect them to talk to the viewer about the score. And she's saying, oh, okay, so I'm kind of trying to understand it now, but I still can't really see it. I've actually drawn a real bowling score sheet, and she's learning how to keep score. So it boggles my mind that if you don't even have one of your monitors doing that, why are you not filling out your own score sheet? How could
Right.
you not know
Okay.
100% all the time?
I got to
what the
touch on
score
this
is?
too because you're absolutely right. So, Quarantine Lady and I were watching the show, and the max score is up there, and she sees this max score, and she goes, "It just went down by 18," and I'm like, "Well, that's because she thinks that's his score." Let's say she's just turning on the TV and she sees the bowling score, and she just watches this score go from 268 to freaking 240. And it's because the guy threw an 8 count instead of a strike,
Right.
which took whatever it was, either way. And she goes, "How did his score go down by 18?
Right.
Does your bowling score ever go down?" And I'm like, "No." And now I'm explaining the max score.
The max
And
score,
again,
yeah.
you're right. There's only 3 or 4 frames being shown.
Right.
And it's almost like you should have to answer a quiz before you watch the damn show so you can pay attention to what's going on. Dude, ever since you said this, I've been making sure I pay attention to how little they emphasize it. And I still don't know how to keep score. I've been bowling for a little bit. I understand the premise, but when they starts getting going, I really don't know.
And that's fine. So what do we expect people that are turning on bowling for the first or second time to understand?
Exactly. That's what I was. You pointed it out here on Straight Up 5 that now I'm literally paying attention to it.
Now, as
And
a
the fact that
sorry, go ahead.
one more thing here, Rob. It's just the fact that it's not noticed enough to have it changed. That's what irks me the most
Right.
about it, because you would think, like, in other words, they used to run 4 matches on an hour and a half time slot on ABC. Now they got 2 hours on Fox for the same 4 matches. Not only do they still not have a proper trophy presentation and check presentation, like, let's show the fucking world that this 28-year-old or 25-year-old kid won $100,000 throwing a bowling ball this week. They don't make time for that, which I want to watch. I don't know. And the same way you leave on the Super Bowl when they're hoisting the trophy at the end, right?
Yeah, make them understand why it's so special that they won. Like, besides the winning, yeah, he won. Okay, good night. Like, show them why it's so important.
Right. And the other end of that is take 5 minutes when the show starts, show the purse, and have here's a little quick tidbit on the scoring of this event. Here's how bowling score works. Strike's worth 10 pins plus your next 2 balls.
Yes.
A spare is worth 10 pins plus your next ball. If it's an O, it means it's a split, which is different than a dash, which means they missed a single pin spare or a non-split. Like,
I didn't even know that. I swear to
segment.
God. I did not even know that. What, the O or a dash, or I fucking don't know that right this second.
Well, like when you leave a 7-count split, sometimes there's a circle around it. Sometimes it's colored red or yellow or something. It's specifying that it's a split.
Right.
As opposed if you leave a washout, like the 1, 2, 4 or any combination that's separated with the head pin, it's not a split.
Right.
But what does it mean if there's a dash or if there's an O? Because sometimes
if it's an O, it means they missed a split.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
And if it's a dash, it means they missed anything else. Yep.
Yep. Now, if they explain that before the telecast starts, and I don't even care if it's redundant and they do it every single week, at least they made the effort to do that so people can follow along. You're absolutely right, Johnny.
It's one of the but I will, once we are done talking about the players and we move on to the U.S. Open, I'm actually for once going to give them props.
Okay.
So I'll get there too.
I'm looking forward to that. But yes.
Hold, real quick though. Now think about this now, and the reason they do this is again because they it's almost like they already have their audience and they're not looking to get. They already know a bowler or a bowling fan is going to watch. So, but that pigeonholes you so much, like because you're never going to ever expand. I know you're not going to get a surfboarder watching bowling, but you're going to get somebody who freaking. I don't know. Somebody who watches golf that might watch bowling or so. I don't know. But they're so pigeonholed in. Fuck your bell. Stick it up your ass.
He was right with that one. I agree with that bell that time. Just had to throw that in there.
Just saying.
Sorry, Oach.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Well, this is funny because when the Nashville Predators first came to Nashville, for the first couple of years, they'd actually hand out these cards to the fans that explained what icing was, what tripping was, with the different penalties, 2-line pass, all that stuff. But that's good for the people that are there. But if you can't make the game and you're watching on local TV and you don't know the rules of hockey, they don't bother to explain on the telecast. And to this day, they still don't either. So why should it be different for, any other sport? Like, are we supposed to know what the rules of football are too? Like, I get what you're saying. They're catering to, and all sports do it. They cater to the audience that already are there and watching every single week. They're not catering to the casual fan. You could even, do the same thing with involving wrestling too.
Well, but they've also, that's kind of where I got it from, because they've lost so much. It wouldn't be an issue again, because football didn't lose, baseball didn't lose, hockey didn't really lose. They've expanded.
Right.
You know what I mean? Those are, the big four, the baseball, hockey, basketball, football. But
bowling or grass
never has to do anything because they've always just progressed in that way.
Yep.
And bowling did take a freaking dive in the JP, real quick, not for too long. When did it really start to slide? In the 00s, 05s ish, like around that time, or after Chris Schenkel? When did it start to? No explanation needed, but just when did it start to dip?
Well, didn't CBS pick up after ABC, John? Is that correct?
Yeah, the decline happened right after ABC, which was the conclusion of the 1997 season, and then CBS tried for a couple years, and then Steve Miller came in the early 2000s to,
and the internet dudes bought him out.
02, 03. Well, that's what saved the PBA was
because they had the backing at least.
Yeah.
Yes, and then they brought in Steve Miller to try and create the new tour, and it was kind of badass. It was badass money wise for the pros for a couple of years there, but like any other billionaire, the Microsoft guys eventually said, "Hey, listen, man, we can't keep pumping money into something that doesn't produce a a surplus of anything. It
Right.
Yeah,
it's just costing them money.
Write off basically at that point. But that so that's when it started becoming like the Denny's tour. Then after that, or the Lumber Liquidators, and like they had to actually announce the sponsor on it. Like I only say this because we were talking about like who owns the NFL. Like nobody owns it. Who owns the NHL? But bowling was literally owned by certain sponsors for a few years, and not a knock on it, but so obviously a decline hit. Anyway, back to what we're talking about. The other sports didn't have that true decline, so now you're in your hole and you're still pigeonholed. Just going back to what we were saying, like the idea is make it more acceptable for the casual fan somehow, some way, and then bring it back to where it was, because people still used to watch it. It's not like it's a new sport that nobody likes. It's something that people used to love.
I like watching it now that I've picked it back up, and I enjoy watching, the best in the world go at it. But I completely don't like the way Fox presents the sport. I
like the tracking. I like the speed. I like
that's cool.
How they show the accuracy. It's almost like.
But tell us why. Why?
But it's also like these are the best in the world, and they're not. They're just not getting their credit that is due. Like, I don't mean like that they have to give their credit, but like emphasize that they're the best in the world, man.
And they only do it for certain guys. You know what I mean? Like they do it for Belmo, they might do it for Rash, or they might do it for Norm Duke or Walter Ray, but like they don't do a great job of explaining like why is Tommy Jones so good? Like they'll say, all right, he won 40 titles, whatever. Well, why is that a big deal? You know what I mean? Like emphasize how hard it is to win a championship after
that's what it is.
However many games they bowl qualifying, like it's a big deal to make the TV paired, and to win a major is a big deal. I mean, they did a good job explaining why Belmo won the most majors ever compared to Earl Anthony and everybody else.
You have 100,000 PBA bowlers in the last 5 years or whatever. I'm making a number up.
Yeah, like
these are the guys that are always at the top.
Right.
Like, explain that.
Give a stat to correlate. Like it's really hard for a guy that's not Jason Belmonte or somebody else, some of the top guys, to make a fucking TV show. Like I think during the U.S. Open, we'll get into it there. I think one of the guys that made the show hadn't made a show since 2010, I believe. So they kind of do show some flashbacks of when the last time they won a tournament or whatever. So. They give a little bit of back history of the competitors before the match. But other than that, I don't think they do a good job describing what transpired during the week or what happened during qualifying, because Nelson Burton Jr. would always do a good job of that, saying, oh, we had 36 games qualifying, the average score was blah, 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 there was 16 300s this week, and he'd say, like, what happened during the week, so we know how we got here. Am I wrong, Johnny? Like, they don't do a good enough job describing that. Like, why is it a big deal that they made the TV show?
They're just not statisticians, man. Randy's, first off, if we're talking about specific to the commentary only, the problem in the booth is Randy, even though he's a commentator, Randy's a bowler.
Yeah.
And Randy's a bowler that was an awesome bowler. He was high on life. He was the funny man on tour. Everybody knew who he was. He was handsome. And then he lost his fucking tour card when that guy yelled in the crowd. Remember that show?
Right.
A long time ago?
Yeah.
I saw it. It was at the stadium thing, and he's like, little statue, me a little statue. And he threw a ring in 10.
Yes, sir. And ever since that day, Randy has glory days syndrome. I think Randy still thinks he should be out there competing, but he has this really nice gig that he has commentating. But Randy, when he's in the booth, is still trying to be funny Randy, but Randy's a player. So he's always got to so Randy talks like a player. He doesn't talk like Nelson Burton Jr. was a player that spoke like a historian of bowling.
Right.
And Chris Schenkel fed him shit because Chris Schenkel was one of the best announcers of any sport.
Yeah.
Rob Stone, his energy and his presence in that booth feeds off Randy Peterson. If Randy Peterson changes his beat, which, again, I really want to give them props at the U.S. Open because they did, and I also want to mention something else about the PBA as far as why it got so fucking shitty amongst all the other reasons based off something you said earlier. But that's the problem in the booth. is Randy is talking to the world like he would talk to his bowling buddies, like you said, appealing to only one crowd.
Yeah.
Well, our crowd is too fucking small to only appeal to one crowd. We need other people to be interested in what they're actually watching.
Yeah, no, he's right about that.
And the other thing, real quick, Rob, sorry.
No, you're fine.
The other thing was bowling. I understand as the years go on, more and more bowling alleys are closing. It's very, very difficult for mom and pop bowling alleys to be open in this wretched fucking world that we live in right now. I don't even want to fucking talk about it. But when you go to places like Fair Lawn, Ohio for the Tournament of Champions, or Indianapolis, Indiana for the U.S. Open, or Jackson, Michigan, where you go places, Claremont, Florida, or places that people have always loved bowling, there are huge crowds at these events in these places.
Yep.
So why are you shoving the best bowlers in the world in fucking Las Vegas for 4 months a year, or Oklahoma for 4 months a year, or some godforsaken place in Maine to have the fucking PBA league because you found one group of rowdy fucking fans that you're happy with?
When they could be touring around and showcasing
Exactly.
their skill like they were, and
Yep.
that's what golf still does. And man, what a shame!
You
What a
can't,
shame!
you can't blame it on the pandemic. I mean, you can
Oh,
a
this
little
was
bit for the
fucking-
studio stuff, but I mean, no, you're right. They kind of are they afraid to branch out and go to areas where they know?
I feel like it's a safe play though, because they're almost at that point where they have to make the safe play because. You know, they just lost their marketing thing. Whatever that woman was, we talked about maybe 2 months ago that she had this marketing idea or something.
Coley Edison,
Yes. Cole Seeley,
who,
the motocross rider.
who I just read that got a $75 million injection into the WNBA after her move from the PBA. I don't know if that was fake news or not, but I read it somewhere.
I mean, it seems like people are still trying, and I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not in the meetings. I don't know anything about it. They always make the safe play, but you almost have to when you don't know what the next 2 years may come up. So maybe their hands are tied. I mean, look, we're still going back to commentary. They have so many inside jokes that I just don't really care for it that much, but they still explain it every once in a while. Randy Peterson still, because Rob Stone doesn't do shit. I'm sorry. It's not like he knows he doesn't. He doesn't know bowling. But every once in a while, Randy Peterson will almost just get out of his own head and explain about how the ball went 4 boards wide and it didn't face and why it left the 10 pin. And I'm like, holy fuck, man, that makes sense. Wow. Thank you. Give me more of that. Which, again, maybe that's my own fault because that means that's bowling stuff, and that's not going to bring in the casual fan either. So what is the answer?
You got to have a little bit of technical stuff to kind of let the casuals know, this is why he's doing this. He needs to hit this side of the pin with the ball, otherwise it's going to chop. He does do a good job of doing stuff like that. There was another time, I think, during the U.S. Open where it's oh, he missed it, but he picked up the fucking 10th, and he's oh, I thought I was going to go fucking wide. So maybe he should hold a reaction.
Think about when that's like you're both saying. It makes perfect sense. Oach especially. You know, my dad wants it to be like golf. The PBA wants it to be like wrestling or something like that.
Yeah.
When a guy is standing over a 40-foot putt, they're talking about the slope of the green,
right?
Talking about which direction it's going to go,
the break, where he's got to hit it.
They're going to tell you what the previous 19 guys did on that green and what the tendency of the miss is. They're going to tell you why it's happening. They're going to tell you what side of you the mountains are on, which side has this much on. They tell you they prep you with
the water on the right side.
It's going to pull that 20
way.
feet.
Yep.
The wind blows a certain direction in this part of the green, I agree.
So here's a quick little anecdote too. There's a commercial about maybe 15 years ago, and it was a golf commercial, and it was a real cool commercial. It was about the Masters, and it said, "There's only one thing more intense than 100,000 screaming fans," and it showed the football stadium. And it said 100,000 quiet fans. And it showed a dude over a 5-footer at the Masters. And I'm getting the goosebumps just thinking about it. And that's marketing freaking brilliance right there. I don't know where they'd apply it, but that could still work with bowling too. Obviously not the number, but when a dude has to bury something in a tent to freaking carry on or to win the tournament, like it's still the drama and the theater are still there. For some reason, the presentation just never meets the theater. I don't know. I wish, and it should still sell itself. But man, fuck, why am I getting mad?
We'll get back to the results of the tournament here in a second. But I mean, I like where this conversation is going. Who do you put the blame on, Johnny? Is it Bolero that owns the PBA? Is it Fox for maybe not
Is
wanting?
there true blame though? I mean,
I don't think there's true blame
Can
anywhere.
Fox
because
expand their schedule and maybe is it them holding the PBA back or is it the PBA holding themselves back? Like, can we get more tournament spots? Does Fox not want to give them the coverage? What do you think it is?
I don't think it's really anybody's fault what's going on. I think that they're trying to make something out of a struggling industry.
Mm-hmm.
And as we've spoken about in the past, I think the PBA doesn't know what its identity should be. And it's very hard to market any product you have when you don't know your audience.
fuck
Right.
you said, dude, you did say that, and you fucking that's it. And I can't believe I fucking forgot it. They don't know what their identity is. Are they flashy? Are they extreme?
Right.
The pins are flying, big freaking bowling balls, hooks, and everything.
Color
And-
of the pattern
but
on
what
the
is-
lanes and you
Yeah,
know.
but what is their identity? The big flashy shirts, but the reality is it's the quietness and the calm demeanor that you have to have when you got to make that shot, which
Yeah, 'cause-
maybe that's
because-
what they're fighting with.
'cause
Holy fuck, you nailed
it is like golf too, Oach, because they're not screaming as they, as they're up there on the approach. They'll
No,
get-
you're on your hand freaking blower, and they're not yelling at you like, all right, and everyone's like waving the crowd down because they got to make a field goal or something.
right,
like that.
right.
Yeah, the PBA wants to be golf half the time, and then the other half the time, it wants to be the fucking stadium hole at the Waste Management Open.
Yeah.
Right.
they're-
The
they
16th
don't
hole
know.
and freaking beer thrown everywhere. That I'm just gonna interject real quick because that was it the U.S. Open where even Belmo said, "Well, I'm trying my best, but this crowd, man, they're so ruckus and rowdy." And Randy Peters was like, "Isn't it great?" And I'm sure he meant like, yes, they're ruckus and rowdy, but he wants to concentrate when he throws the ball.
True. They were just happy to actually have fans back in the building is really what that was all about.
Yeah,
And that maybe be a starting point for them too. Honestly,
Could be. No, it could be. Maybe it gets more excitement for people watching at home when they see how lively the crowd is. Because, I mean, back in the day, Johnny, on ABC, the crowd was fucking hype for everything. People
and there was
yelling.
actually a massive crowd.
A massive
And
crowd,
one
yeah.
of the biggest things that they changed as far as the crowd itself, which I've never understood, was they stopped putting them behind the fucking bowlers.
Yeah.
They like, first off, I will never, ever, ever go to a PBA show ever again if I'm sitting on the side.
Right.
I don't want to sit fucking 40
How do you
feet down the
even
lane
see anything? By
and
the
have
way,
the
Like,
worst view ever.
They used to
of
do that
bowling.
even far, like they were even farther to the side back in the old days.
Yeah.
Because,
Well, at least back in the old days, they put televisions on the lane.
Right.
No, but
So you
they're,
could
he's
actually
fucking.
see
They're,
it.
they're on the lane, like dude.
Yeah,
now they are,
He's
yeah.
literally sitting at the
They're
40-foot
parallel
mark.
with the lanes. They
And, like,
took out
how
the
can you-
perpendicular seating behind the lanes.
Yeah.
You can't see anything. Like all you see is a ball going down, and hope you hear what the crowd reacts to.
Right.
Speaking of the crowd, and please God, I cannot believe that nobody else has said this already. When the guys make television, why do they always make the fucking wives sit right the fuck next to each other? Are you out of your fucking minds, you fucking morons?
Maybe they want to fight to break out. I don't know.
Maybe.
They started doing
Dude,
that like 15
I don't
years
care
ago.
who it is. If my ex-wife Andrea made a show and she was bowling against, oh God, I just thought about Melissa Peters, God rest her soul, because they were friends. But and I had to sit next to my buddy while my buddy's wife was bowling against Andrea. I want his wife to big four. I want her to gutter. I want a fucking fist pump when she misses. Can't do that when he's
Are
fucking
they trying
sitting
to
right
show
here.
like the sportsmanship of it and like, well, we're here for a great game?
Maybe. I mean, I don't think
That is
Yeah.
yeah. You know what?
I don't
That's
know.
that's funny. That's
Go
funny
tell
because
fucking
we're not
Giselle
supposed to talk
go
about
sit
that.
with the
though.
Packers when the Bucks are playing Green Bay.
Right. Right.
Go have Giselle sit in their skybox.
But I almost feel like that's the part of the golf where the whole sportsmanship and the honor and they don't even ever talk about it because it's not like they're like fuck man.
Well, to
Dude,
put it in a
this should
football
be
term,
another
like
show then.
no, it should be like having Robert Kraft sit next to Art Rooney when he was alive. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
Like, really?
No, it makes sense.
What are you doing?
Well,
And I can't believe the women, the wives, have never said, I don't really think you expect me to sit next to this one.
Dude,
My
I
husband's
fucking
bold.
donkey punch this bitch. Are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah, get me the fuck away from her.
yeah.
And it's not, and there's no way every week the wives are like, oh, like, hey, Mrs. Jesper Svensson, you want to sit next to
I
me?
can't wait till
Because
we sit
he's
next to
bowling
each
Ronnie."
other.
Yeah, I can't. It's so great. It's not like that either. Like, why? They're actually, they're forcing it.
You know what's great?
Yeah.
It's going to be like, you know what? Your freaking husband hit on me last night, that drunk son of a bitch.
Yeah.
You know what else annoys me is playing whatever theme song they like after they strike.
Dude, it's not. Here's the problem with that too. And I'll say, like, they play the fucking one verse only.
Yeah.
They really can't like fucking play the next verse or another verse or then the chorus or something.
It's the same
always-
clip.
It's 5 to 8 seconds. And it's the same goddamn clip. And I was telling Quarantine Lady about it. And I'm like, you know, they really are, they're trying, but they're not. They're
Right.
like, okay, we're doing the minimum of this.
They're trying to make it
Because
hip, you know.
They're
and-
playing this one song, and it's this. It's like it's almost like with the Chicago Blackhawks. Da-da-da, 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 when you always get a goal, and it would be like hearing that only thing every time. Play fucking chorus too. Play the fucking solo, something like it's the same song, but like it's the same 8 seconds of fucking lyrics each time.
Agreed.
And I'm an old country boy, and we're gonna have toast tonight.
I got so tired of
And
hearing
that's
that.
it.
Yeah.
Every fucking spare, strike, fucking miss.
I'm waiting for somebody to just put like fucking like NWA on
But by
there.
the way, Rob, good call, fucking, because that's. I'm so glad you said that because that was something I totally noticed too.
If they put like "fuck the police" or something on there, I mean, I might dig it a little more. But
Fine, put
Right.
some freaking
old-
Biggie or
old
something.
school, right? But
Heck yeah.
all right. So nitpicking aside, getting back to
I
the
don't
actual.
think it's nitpicking, no, Rob.
No,
I swear to
it's-
God, I don't.
I mean, no, it's not. It's constructive stuff that
We
like
noticed
to see
it,
change.
and we don't even fucking watch. Well, Johnny does, but fucking we don't.
Well, yeah, that's true. We're just
I'm getting fucking heated, dude. I don't know, man. This is bullshit.
anyway. Getting back to the results of the Players Championship before we get any more out of control. Tommy Jones lost to Graham Fa in the first match, 279 to 219. Our second match was Arturo Quintero from Mexico taking on Graham Fa. Somehow, Fa's game dropped off, Johnny. He shot 204. What do you think the reason was that? Just the oil breaking down? He couldn't adjust right? Like, what did you see in his game that may have changed?
You know, he looked. I experienced what he went through. He looked like he just lost his look. And when you start with urethane, the tricky part is, I'm trying to go back to that show because I've watched so much bowling since then. But I remember him. He started going high on the right lane a lot, if I'm not mistaken, with the purple hammer. I feel like he never missed the left lane. Like he struck on the left lane pretty much the entire day. Maybe he had one bad shot on there. But what happens is, it's the one thing you can hurt yourself when using urethane is if the pattern all of a sudden does change, it does change pretty rapidly. So once you start having to throw urethane a little bit harder to get it through the front part of the lane, and you start leaving flat sevens or like the swish zone 10 pin or the off hits and they don't strike, that's when urethane becomes trouble. And because it rolls so much differently than resin, to make a blind ball change in that environment live on television, I think it was a mixture of a little bit of nerves. I think going from having the front nine, having the momentum going into the 10th frame for the extra 10 grand, which they also seem to never fucking mention that we
I
get bonuses
don't
for
think they even
300.
said it, dude.
Nope.
Yeah, in case anybody was curious about that too. But that's what I think happened. And, but Graham's a good player. But yeah, when you lose ball reaction with urethane, it's very hard to get out of urethane because of the comfortability that urethane produces.
Right.
Whether you're righty, lefty, two-handed, one-handed, thumb in, thumb out, doesn't matter.
Quick
Urethane
question
is-
about the urethane. Like when you say lose reaction, you mean like it doesn't finish or it doesn't, it just goes straighter? What, like we got to dummy it down just a little bit.
urethane
'Cause
absorbs
we know it
oil.
absorbs. Yeah, right. It doesn't drag it. It takes the oil up. So
Yeah.
that means
Well,
the
it
lanes
drags
are
some
drier,
and takes it up.
technically.
I mean,
So
every
the lanes
bowling
are-
ball does that.
Okay, so the lanes are technically drier where the guy's trying to throw. So when you say lose reaction, he can't just move left and find more oil or
Correct, because I mean there are certain guys can, like a Packy Hanrahan, a Jacob Buttriff,
guys who hit it.
Yeah, and guys who know how to loop, like really get around it through the front. But the problem is you're more standardized players. The more you move in with urethane is designed to hook as soon as it hits the lane. It's not designed to save energy.
Oh, so it doesn't store anything. It just starts to go from the get go, and then so it'll keep overhooking basically, or not overhooking, but it'll start to roll rather than slide, and it'll. So you can't ever get lined up once you start trying to climb that way.
Exactly. So you're forced. So what happens is when that front part of the lane starts to burn up because all the oil goes away, if you hit it a little bit too hard or send it out just a little bit too quickly, it immediately goes high and it jumps through the nose.
Right.
Even from that spot now, if you throw it higher, like lofted more, or throw it harder, or more up the back of it, like really extend the follow, anything to delay the reaction. Now you're delaying the reaction of the urethane into the oil that's already been pushed down. And then
it's going to hit a washout or pick a 10-pin off, basically, or something if you're a righty.
Exactly. So whenever you watch a lefty throw or a righty throwing urethane and you start seeing flat 10, flat 7, swishing 7, swishing 10, those offhits that usually strike, and then they make a little tiny move and they go a little high, and now they're leaving 4 pins and 6 pins instead of tripping them. That's why I think Graham lost that match to Arturo.
It's great when the pattern suits it, but then once it doesn't, the margin for error is so minute that it's not even worth using because you want the ball that'll skid a little bit. I'm picking it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Johnny, let me ask you this, just from a bowler standpoint, if you were in that position. When you're two different patterns on those lanes, throwing 2 different balls in each lane, is it sometimes hard to remember what ball does what? Where did I line up last shot? Where do I need to be? If things start going sideways on both lanes, now you have to adjust for, 2 different moves, 2 different balls, 2 different spots on the lane. You got to get confused maybe sometimes of where you're supposed to be or how you're supposed to throw. One lane you're supposed to fucking, crank it more, and the other one you want to throw a little bit harder or straighter. Like that's a lot of stuff to have to remember when there's like 2 different patterns like that.
They got a rep there looking at that stuff too, I think, right? Though
yes, they do, but at the professional level, no, I don't ever forget where I'm standing. Okay. It doesn't matter how drunk I am, how many patterns are out there. The same way any NFL quarterback knows 15 to 20 plays off the top of his head. Right, that's. It's a very rare occurrence that he says, "Are we running 13 or whatever?" But, that doesn't happen at the professional level. And
actually, that's another testament of how good they are too. That's never really talked about. Just how they can hit the same spot, stand in the same spot over and over again. That kind of shit, I guess, too.
They're making. Righties way more so than lefties, but they're making moves every frame. I mean, every time you talk to a right-hander on tour, 2 patterns, 1 pattern, they're already going over to watch their next pair to see if they could make an educated guess for the first frame, because there's no way that next pair is going to be anything like what they were just on. If it does happen to hold up for the week, the scores are astronomical. But that it is a testament to their capabilities and their talent, because they are not only thinking about executing the perfect shot or staying up the back or getting it to this markdown lane at this speed with this rev rate and yada, yada, yada. They're also worried about converting every spare they shoot and then wondering, okay, now I got to go to lane, the 45-foot lane. Now I got to close my shoulders. I got to soften my ball speed by a mile an hour.
Right. And
doing all of that against the best in the world is why they are the best in the world. It has nothing to do with how many strikes they necessarily throw. The best bowlers in the world, in other words, everybody in the world strikes. Nowadays, especially. Anybody can throw a strike in bowling.
They mitigate their misses to the minimal freaking degree, basically.
Right. There's no egos with the best in any sport. Tom Brady has had no problem taking a sack. When I used to watch Tom Brady, I used to say, God, he didn't even try to get away from that sack. That's because Tom Brady was smart enough to take the sack and hold on to the football and not risk losing it because he knew he would throw a 20-yard completion on the next play.
Right. That's true.
The same way the pros, when they're on a condition, they say, well, if I miss here, I miss this way every time. So I'm either going to throw a good shot or I'm only going to miss out. They never miss out and then miss in trying to not miss out. That's why they don't bowl 140. They bowl 180.
Right.
And they're smart enough in the brain to understand that that's all part of the journey. It's like that in any sport to me. It's always been like that in any sport. The best bowlers in the world are the best in between the ears.
If somebody invented a 100-foot bowling lane, would it get ratings? Or maybe the first show would, but then we'll see. Well, I mean, like,
I get what you're saying. Well,
think about it. I mean, well, because honestly, on the television, it doesn't do it justice. And I'm thinking about golf. Golf never did it justice either. You see the ball in the air, you see it on the ground. Now they finally got the Pro Tracer and everything. Right.
Meanwhile, when they show me a 190-yard par 3 on television, it looks like it's 890.
It looks like it's 4,000 freaking yards away, and the dude's hitting an
8-iron.
An 8-iron.
It thing's a mile away.
So they should use that big long camera to make it like. And here's the bowling lane, and the pins are so damn. They look like duck pins or something. But hey, look, we all got ideas here, man. Maybe there's something to it.
Well,
a 100-foot bowling lane.
Well, they should do something like I don't know if you guys watch American Ninja Warrior, where last few years they've actually they put a second warp wall up that's higher than the other one, and they'll give somebody like $10,000 if they can reach it. It's like, I don't know, 40 feet.
Is it after they've hit the first warp wall? Then they got to.
No, they have a choice. Like they get three chances at each, but if they pick one, they got to stick to it.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So why don't they do it with bowling? Like have a special fucking lane like next to the pair where whoever wins the match or whatever has like a chance to win fucking $10,000. And yeah, like Oach said, have it be like a fucking 200-foot lane and see if they can fucking strike on it. Like that'd be kind of interesting for me to watch, like to win some extra money.
See, already you're making fun of me. Where'd that come from? And Rad Rob's like, well, you know what, motherfucker? Here we go. I'm picturing Rob running through the warp wall, and it looks like how Daffy Duck would run through a wall and still have his image still right there, and be like, well, I made it through. And then you get.
So now we don't know if we're WWF, golf, or game show. So we really have no fucking idea who our audience is. Case in point.
That's
here.
Good.
Right?
That's why we don't pigeonhole. We have our identity, but we don't have our audience yet.
Think outside the box.
No one listens.
You got to think outside the box. All right. Arturo Quintero.
US Open now. You got to do. Oh shit.
We're going to get there. No, I mean we're trying to wrap it up here. Quintero defeated Fa 248 to 204 in match 2. Match 3 was Jason Belmonte, returning to television since 2020. He was stuck in Australia, obviously, through the pandemic. He defeated Quintero 248 to 212. That led us to our final match, which they did a good job, and I will give them credit for this. They did a pretty good job of describing why there is heat, to use a wrestling term.
They did the build-up.
Between Belmo and Rash, saying that they're heated rivals since 2011. They even showed a clip of Rash kind of, slapping one out in front of Belmo and kind of talking trash. And they said over the years that they've been, pretty heated rivals. It's so far as Randy saying they just don't like each other. What do you know about these two together, Johnny Jr.? Is that true? Do they really not like each other? Is it just for TV? What do you know about the relationship between Sean Rash and Jason Belmonte?
I'm going to be perfectly honest. I never witnessed any altercations in person.
Mm-hmm.
I've had wonderful conversations with Sean throughout my life, and I've had wonderful conversations with Jason. I mean, Jason and I remember sitting outside Norwich Tenpin in Norwich, Connecticut.
Yep.
He asked me if he could bum a cigarette. This is like 2012, 13, 11, 12, right around there. And it was like we smoked 3 cigarettes together because it was the greatest conversation ever. I don't remember what the hell we were talking about, but we lasted out there for seemingly an hour.
Yeah.
I know that, as I've said in the past, Sean has always thought he's the best in everything he does in every walk of life. It's the way Sean is. and that's why Sean is as good as Sean
You
is.
need that mentality to do that shit sometimes too. That's the point.
Right.
But when you take a mentality like that, and then you take a talent like Belmonte, who
There's
is
some conflict.
well spoken, well mannered, better looking. Sorry
Super
to say
nice too. Super
Super
nice.
extremely
Yeah.
super duper nice,
Yeah.
and absolutely wonderful and seemingly real in front of the camera and off of the camera. That's the kind of shit that drives people that think they're the best bananas. And I think that Jason has always known that, and Jason is seasoned enough in the mind to know how to just fucking pull the
Dude, he
pull it a little bit.
intentionally does it because, like we were talking about a few weeks ago, how
Exactly.
he came in on the broadcast to do color, and I don't know that he practiced. We don't know what he did because he's home in a pandemic, and he was freaking great at it.
Amazing.
He explained it in bowling terms and in layman terms, and I'm like, man, this dude just literally added to that commentary team what they need. And I'm like, look, good for him. And even to talk into a microphone, like, honestly, Johnny, we were talking about how you're a natural when we first started and everything, and like having showmanship and just being able to talk and pretend you're talking just to us, but knowing you're talking to an audience. And you have that gift and you can't teach it. And Belmo seems to have it. He knows he does it, and now he knows he's good at it. And he knows it gets Rash's go, I guess.
And I think
Absolutely.
I think he's got a great job after bowling, if bowling's still around on TV, and he decides to go that route. Ocho, I really think that Belmo could be another, Nelson Burton
Bo.
Jr.
He could
right?
be a Bo at
He
that
could be
point,
a Bo
I
Burton
feel like.
and be very, very good and personable and relatable, and people actually like him because he is very, very nice. I've never seen anybody say a bad word about Belmo. He's a true ambassador for bowling. And I'm going to go on a limb here, and maybe Johnny will agree with me, but I'll get your thoughts first, Ouch. Do you think Belmo saved bowling?
Saved it? I don't know.
Like, is he a reason why it's even moderately fucking,
maybe saved it, but he revolutionized it.
He did.
I'll have to say that. And obviously, JP had to take a quick break, and we're not pretending like he's listening. I'm curious what his answer is going to be.
Yeah,
because if we were talking with Johnny Sr. a couple months ago, and he said, I can't, in 10 years, there's only going to be 10% one-handed bowlers. So I don't think bowling's been saved yet, but I feel like he revolutionized it and turned it into a new direction, which in 20 years could make it saved.
and
So
even
ask JP now. Go ahead.
I will. I mean, even
Or
Randy.
unless you want to go get your thought first.
Well,
Go ahead, Rob.
Randy even said that Belmo. There's so many young talent now, so many kids that are replicating the two-handed throw, and he changed the sport for everybody. What I asked Ocho, Johnny, is did Belmo save bowling? Like, he is such an ambassador for the sport, and no one's ever said a bad word about him that I've heard. And he's so personable and so likable. When bowling was in the downtime, you had this fresh face come out of Australia with a different style and just kind of take everybody by storm. No pun intended. And did he save bowling and make it at least moderately, successful and attractive to watch?
Did Tiger Woods save golf?
Absolutely.
Then you bet your ass Jason Belmonte saved bowling. Jason Belmonte is the reason people still bowl. Think about it.
Wow. Yeah.
The older generation will always bowl, but the newer generation, they're all two-handed guys.
Yeah.
They're all two-handed. And they're all two-handed because the best bowler in the world is two-handed. The same reason the greatest crankers in the history of bowling came out after Mark Roth. It's, every time somebody re-innovates something, everybody else imitates it. And I am 100% that Jason saved bowling. 100%.
So here, my answer was that I don't think.
Excuse me, in closing,
Go.
The PBA knew Jason was going to save them. That's why in the earlier going, when they were giving out the commissioner's exemptions every single week, when they had the exempt field, Jason always got more exemptions. They even, I don't want to say this out loud because I don't have full-blown knowledge of it.
You're going to.
But they made sure that Jason made television.
Mhm.
They made sure that they used some patterns there in 2008-9 when he was coming out like Long Island, that they made sure that you had to throw it over the left gutter cap.
Hey, remember he was at that Great Adventure thing, and it was only his first year. They brought him out, and he hadn't done anything yet, but they wanted to see the two-handed guy. When we were the Great Adventure thing that we were at and all that, like that was they ensured that he was in that, the only two-handed guy, and it was a spectacle to see too.
Absolutely.
So my answer was that I don't think bowling's been saved yet, but I feel like in 10 years, because of what his contributions were, it could then thrust it forward. I'm not downplaying it. I'm just, obviously bowling's still struggling. That's why we talk about this stuff, and that's why we complain about the advertising, the marketing, the strategies, the commentary.
Because we love it. We love the game of bowling.
Of course, no, but that's what I mean. But that's why I don't think it's I don't think it was. That's what I didn't want to give him the savior title. He might very well be in 10 years though. So that was my answer.
Let me ask you this, Johnny, because you're friends with Anthony Simonson, who is a two-hander. Yes. Was he always a two-hander?
For as long as I've been friends with Anthony, yeah. I only met Anthony. I met him in Norwalk, California, for the first time officially about 6 years ago.
Okay.
So he was probably 20 years old.
Now, yeah, I was going to say, I don't know his age, and obviously Belmo's been around for 17 years, somewhere around there. So maybe Anthony is that first crop of watching Belmo as a kid and be like, holy shit, I want to do that. And maybe
come Osku doesn't get any credit?
That's a good point.
Osku, truth be told,
I know he didn't win. That's probably why, but
I think it's a mixture of a lot of different things. Osku, by the way, is one of the greatest people you'll ever meet. He really is.
That's what Dave said on the television too.
Oh my god, he's friendly, he's hysterical, he's fucking hysterical.
Like dude. He's like a dude that would just hang out with you and just chill out, goof off, and be a dummy, and then throw fucking 30 strikes in a row.
No, he's more of like the quiet hysterical,
like a little dry or something.
Yeah, but because he's from Finland, I don't know,
language barriers,
and Osku's quiet on TV, and Osku didn't win as much as Belmo did. And everybody, I don't know. Jason was always more talkative on the TV shows, even in the early going.
I feel like the first guy I saw was Osku, though, and legit. And I was like, what is that thing? How the frick does he do that?
Mine, too, when he made the show at the U.S. Open.
Against Walter Ray, maybe, I think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Walter Ray beat him.
I hate that I know that. I'm sorry. I fucking hate
you. You really are a bowler now.
He is.
Maybe you should take us off the sheet.
Dick.
Ocelot.
No, but thanks for interrupting me, Oach. But I mean, that's a great point. Going back to my original question, if Johnny could answer it, do you think Simonson was that first crop of young bowlers that saw Belmo on TV and says, "Yeah, I want to do that"?
Or I do. I think that is the first crop. Absolutely. The people like Asimo. Kyle Troop's a little bit older, but Kyle switched to two-handed. Kyle wasn't always two-handed.
See, that's what I want to know.
He was asking. That's kind of what he was asking.
If Anthony had started out one-handed or two-handed, maybe we can dig into that later, for another show. But you're right. Troop is older, and he said, "You know what? I want to try this, and maybe I can have an advantage over the one-handed bowlers because it seems to work for Belmo, so maybe it'll work for me." And obviously, it did.
Absolutely. And then again, the young kids now, I don't know. I mean, Belmo's still the best bowler in the world, but the younger kids now could be looking at Simonson.
That's true.
They could be looking, like Wesley Lowe is another prime example. He's been bowling great. I've known Wesley since he was a baby.
Right.
And, Wesley's always been a two-handed lefty, but I don't know who his inspiration was. That's another one.
Oh,
JB, hang on.
No. Come on, Alex, give me.
No, because I'm serious. No, this is the God's honest truth. Like what? Okay, because you've coached, you've taught, you teach bowling mechanics. Who's the teacher? who's the teacher for bowling mechanics for the two-hander? Because it's self-taught technically, because no one ever taught it.
I mean, we all had coaches in the junior leagues, right? So
Who's the but that's just what I'm saying.
who's
So
coaching the kids?
who's the two-handed coach? Or is there not a such thing yet? Or are they literally emulating Belmo and saying, okay, we're going to watch this in slow motion? How is that not a bad question?
That's a great question. That's a fantastic
So
question.
fuck off,
I
man.
think I think that it is a great question because just compare it to standard bowling. You could read a book and say this is where your arm's supposed to be, yada 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 yada. But everybody has their own bowling game. Nobody throws the ball identically to one another. So like I grew up wanting to hook the ball like Jason Couch, but I wanted to be smooth like Parker Bone. So I tried to emulate Parker with Couch's hand for most of my young life. My dad taught me how to take steps to the foul line, taught me about the importance of the follow-through, where the elbow's supposed to be, just like any other sport.
Yeah.
And the same thing is happening with the two-handers. And as far as coaching is concerned, as far as physical coaches on the lanes, I don't know. I don't know because the older generation isn't two-handed.
That's what I'm.
So-
there you go. That's because I remember you'd set up video cameras and you'd have your arm slots and whatnot, and like that's obviously teaching the mechanics, and then letting the swing take its place. But like, so it just literally just hit me. So
the thing is everything still happens in the same spots,
much like a batting swing.
Right.
Exactly. So you could look as funky as you need to, but if you look at the basics, if you look at where the hand is at the point of release, where the balance arm goes to at the point of release, what the pivot step looks like, the direction of the arm swing and the back swing. It's all very similar. The only
But I feel like it's
I've
imitation with two-handed rather than mechanics. Am I making sense with that? Like, because there wasn't any true form.
It's a generation that has to. This generation has to learn by viewing rather than learning from coaching.
And then they're going to do it, and then they're going to take Belmonte and go, so look, and you'll see like the left arm tucked, but also the right arm tucked or something like that. And
well, think about the first person that said to Mark Roth, "Why are you doing that to the bowling ball?"
That's true too. Why are you ripping the shit out of it? Yeah, right.
Look like you're having a brain hemorrhage. Like it's make your thumb hole bigger, you fucking lunatic.
Corkscrew that damn thing in, like, and then hopefully.
And then they started to say, "Man, how do you do that?" And then Mark Roth probably said, "I don't fucking know. I just."
And that's when bowler's tape was invented, and that's when people
see.
That's when people
now, now that's a great point, though. That's a great point because something always had to come from something to come from something, and that's what's fucking A. That's a good point.
Mike Miller, 1992,
Mike Miller,
man.
Cranker, yeah.
He was just a,
good old Mike.
He was on tour, a couple of years, never did much of anything. Practices with his thumb out of the ball, says, I think I should try this on tour. He was a new bowler, won the national championship.
Yep.
He's a major champion.
And honestly,
televised 300.
All Belmo really is when he takes his other hand off the ball, he's a no-thumber. I mean, and he's got a perfect release at the line.
And who I'd like to talk to about it is Tom Doherty, because I'm one of the few people, like I've said in years past, I've always been ahead of what becomes popular in bowling.
We talked about that on one of the shows too, about how you were thumbless, which was asinine technically, and now it's freaking.
Yep,
it's a major thing.
And I'll be the first one to tell you, I can't throw a ball with two hands. I throw a ball way more accurately with my thumb out than I do with my thumb in.
Right.
But if you ask me to put my other hand on the ball and pretend like that hand is going to be my stabilizer muscle and my guidance chip, I can't do shit. My body doesn't go the way that Belmo's goes or Simo's. So it's strange, but people then say to me, what's crazy about you, John, is your backswing is as high without your thumb as it is with your thumb.
It's fucking insane. I don't know how you do that. I really don't.
I feel like it's just passing my belt. I feel like it's just above my ass.
No, it's high. It's still pretty high. Yeah. And I don't know how you do it because I'd be afraid to drop the fucking ball. Like whenever I would no thumb, I'd have to severely cup it. And my arm swing was so fucking limited to how far I can bring it back because I was afraid it was going to drop the ball.
You're thinking about it, so your elbow benting anyway because you don't want the freaking thing to land on your foot.
Yeah, so my elbow was bent and I'm cupping the fuck out of the ball. I don't know how you do it. I really don't. Are you throwing 15 and 16 pound? What are you throwing?
12.
Most of my shit is... Well, no, most of my shit's 15 now.
Okay.
I have some I have some urethane and some rubber, and maybe one or two like visible plastics that are 16, because I'll throw 16 also.
Yeah.
But predominantly when I'm throwing the newer stuff, the resin stuff, it's 15.
Which is still heavy. I mean, a pound does make a difference, but you're still, that ball's fucking swinging all the way back.
They used to say that, but the revs make the difference. I feel
it does.
Honestly,
it does. But I don't know how you don't drop the ball. I don't physically. I don't understand it. Is it because your hands are bigger, or
I don't know. I know that I have good shoulder. I have a lot of tilt. So the more you lean forward, the visual shows that it's a lot higher.
It makes it look like it shows. I was just going to say that, too, as you bend, you're still waist height. But think about this. Here's your fulcrum. Boom. It's still the same spot, but you're just lower.
Think about Parker Bone at the top of his backswing, and then think about Pete Weber.
True.
Now think about where Pete Weber's left shoulder is at the top of his backswing, and think about where Parker Bone's right shoulder is.
That's true.
At the top
Parker's
of his backswing.
isn't near as low, and Weber's is way down but yet I almost wonder the ball might be in the same spot. Go figure.
Yeah, if you had Pete and Parker flip flop, and you had Parker lean forward, and you'd have Pete a little bit more, straight across, it'd be polar opposite. Just looking at the backswing.
No shit.
Wow,
but yet Parker stays behind the ball, and Pete is outside of it, coming around it, and fuck, I hate that I even know that. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that.
Yeah, you are a loser.
Now,
this is great.
Let me ask a dumber question. I know
You've
weight.
done that.
I know weight makes a difference because obviously how hard it hits the pins. But
I thought you make us how much you weigh.
when you put revolutions into it, like Belmo throwing 530, can he throw a 13, 14 pound ball and strike as hard?
No.
Okay.
He could still strike with 13 or 14 pounds. 14 way more than 13, because once you get to 13 and 12 pounds, the engine or the weight block inside the bowling balls actually changes to a generic core shape.
I got you. Okay.
To manage that weight.
Okay.
But there are some pros that have even gone through a couple of weeks on tour where they switch to 14 pounds to gain more speed.
Right.
Ideally, what they say statistically, it's anywhere from a half a hit to one hit a game. That's what you sacrifice by losing the pound.
Now,
but then when you go from 15 to 16, they say you could also sacrifice 0.3 shots per game of bad luck, because 16 makes pins go up and 15 makes pins go back. And the more pins go up, the more likely a ring and 10 pin or a ring and 7 pin is to show up.
Right.
God,
You
that's
want
shit I never
back
even
because
knew.
then they're going to mix with each other
Right.
rather than. But that's also the kind of the rule with like side roll too. Like you want it forward facing the pins, because if the revs are hitting this way, the pins will stay in mixed. And if it's side roll, they're going to kind of flail up. Rob, that was a great question about the 14 pounder. You actually got my brain going.
And thank you. And I actually want to know.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Fuck you. Physical wise, does it make a difference, or does it take a different toll on you taking that pound off, physical wise, over the long haul?
15 has always felt like 15 to me. It's a very comfortable weight.
Okay.
When I throw 16, I have no problem going up to 16. I actually don't mind the extra weight. But when I go from 16 back to 15, I struggle my ass off for about a week, because now
Really?
15 feels like it's 6.
Oh wow. Okay. See, I mean, I asked that because
Is there that
Take
much of a
bat weight.
difference?
It's like swinging a bat weight on a baseball bat in the on-deck circle, because you want to catch up to a 100-mile-an-hour fastball.
That makes sense.
But
yeah.
there's no 100-mile-an-hour fastball there.
Right,
There's
right,
a 70-mile-an-hour changeup. But you're swinging like you're swinging at a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. And like,
Even with that 1 pound, because
That makes
one
sense.
or two of my bowling balls is 16. I don't know which one they are, so I kind of just pretend not to know.
Well-
So I just fake it.
Well, I've been throwing
Until you make
16 since I was 12 or 13. Like, and it's just just going up the ladder as I got older and stronger. To where I never even thought of going back to a 14 or 15 as I've gotten older, to kind of make it easier on my body. So you obviously can tell a difference between a pound.
oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's specific pounds too. Like the hardest thing with throwing 16 nowadays is the amount of bowling balls that are in production and the limited amount of people that throw 16. Most pro shops don't stock 16-pound items.
Really?
I was going to ask that because most people are throwing 15 now, right? With the revs
Yeah.
and everything. It's okay. That's what I thought.
Yeah, if you walk, I can guarantee you, any pro shop you walk into, they may have at max 3 or 4 16-pounders in there, but it's most likely not going to be one that you want.
Wow.
They'll have to order it, and hopefully you get one-day delivery, or hopefully there's a supplier nearby that they go pick it up same day for you. But 16 is kind of becoming a little bit, it's fading away.
Yeah.
Is what it's coming
That's
to.
amazing to me. And that's something, and I'm glad I brought it up because I learn new shit every week, but I never even would have thought that that's a thing. Like, to me, I mean, as a kid, it was like, yeah, I'm fucking cranking a 16-pounder, and, the other kids are throwing 13, 14. It's like, you're almost like, you think you have an advantage over people, or like, it's a cool thing as a kid to be throwing what the adults throw.
Again,
now it's with the,
it was the advantage when everybody
back in the
was
day,
just rolling the ball.
Yeah, it's a level
as opposed
playing
to
field.
Then, like Mark Roth coming in and starting to
Right.
crank it, and then as the resin, I guess, would come in, where the ball starts to hit harder, the weight blocks, and I'm
perfect
guessing.
sense.
But I'm talking physics. I was a physics major, so it's still geometry and physics.
Yep.
And where the ball hits and faces up with the revs, which is what knocks the pins down. That's like we said, force equals mass times acceleration. That's what's going to.
Think about going to the bowling ball is a gun at a shooting range, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you take like a standard Kimber or something, just a handgun, and you shot at a melon 20 yards away, what would happen to the melon? Would it explode? Would it go through it? Whatever. If you took a shotgun, but you're still shooting at the same melon, and then if you took a minigun from the same range, the melon's going to explode in 3 different ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
The weapon, it's because the weapons are being changed. The playing field isn't. So when you're throwing these atom bomb bowling balls that we have now, we're still, and the progression of the strength of the cover and the insides of them, we're still bowling on 60 feet of plastic.
Should be 200 if you ask me.
At 38 pounds of wood.
No, you're right. It's the target's the same. The structure's the same. The geometry's still the same.
It always goes back to our golf reference, man. Par 4s were not 500 yards in 1990.
They were 390 basically.
It's because golf kept up with the times.
Right.
But that's why
why
I think Rob made a good point of like making people bowl 14-pound bowling balls. That's, they capped the freaking thing off at 460, and now there's titanium's out. I just learned they're starting carbon, I think. That's my freaking motocross handlebars are made out of carbon.
Yeah,
I was
that's
racing at Raceway Park 4 years ago
Yep.
with carbon handlebars that wouldn't bend. Shit.
Yep. Carbon fiber infused shit.
I dumped that bike so many times. I was like, shit, it's bent. The clutch. Nope, shit, straight as an arrow. Here we go. Let's do a motocross podcast.
Well, but golf knew that they had to adapt. So, that's why they do that. They can't release the same fucking club every year. Like they gotta have.
No, golf knew that they actually matched the specs. I feel like
You think so? Yeah.
I kind of think I'm on right. Like golf knew that they literally maxed out their specs, and they were like, "Look, we can't have idiots going to the freaking golf course hitting 290-yard, 300-yard drives that have never hit a golf ball before. So let's kind of make the sport. It's still fucking hard, as my book says. Golf's too hard, but you can't have something that's gonna make it that easy for pretty much what a house shot is. I'm getting way off tangent here. I'm glad I'm back. Unmute.
Sorry about that. No, you're not. My dad and I had this conversation earlier because we were talking about the U.S. Open of bowling, and
which we'll get to eventually.
Next
well,
week.
I'm gonna mention
We'll
this.
be all right.
I'm gonna mention at least this now because this is important. It's been on my mind, and my dad brought this up. The U.S. Open. We were talking earlier about bowling alleys that are good for the lefties, not good for the lefties. Do certain oil patterns cater to certain sides of the lane? And the U.S. Open is like the polar opposite of the National Bowling Stadium. I mean, Ronnie Russell publicly spoke about this with Phil Cardinale on the Radical Bowling page recently. And my dad explained it in a way that could maybe make the general public understand what happens at the U.S. Open. They make They put out this flat pattern at the U.S. Open. The lefties traditionally have no chance at the U.S. Open. And when I say no chance, the best left-handed bowlers in the world are usually at the bottom, like way fucking down there. This past U.S. Open.
A flat pattern, you mean it's literally like just oil to oil across the way? Like there's no...
The same amount of oil on every board, so there's no...
Meanwhile, there's so
middle.
many righties bowling, but there's only 5 lefties. Well, I don't mean 5, but like... So they're already at a disadvantage, basically.
And this is what happens at that event, is because the righties, there's so many of them, they have the ability to change the condition almost to a point that it gets easy at some point. My dad's comparison was, he says, again, look at golf. What makes the U.S. Open in golf suck is exactly what makes the Masters so great. He says at the Masters, everybody has to be precise. Everybody has to pick their poison, pick their shots. Every shot is a little bit different.
It's very positioned, and every shot's in play also.
There's the first cut, there's the second cut, there's the rough. So the guys who are playing the best that week are usually the guys that win the Masters. At the U.S. Open, once you get out of the fairway, and immediately you have maybe the first cut, but then you go immediately to 4 foot of
There's
like
8 feet of
Jagaudia
freaking
rough.
fescue or something.
If Brooks Koepka, Tiger Woods, and Rob Francois all hit their tee shots into that 4 feet of fescue, here's now what happens. All 3 of those guys have to punch the ball out as hard as they can and advance it 20 feet back into the fairway. At the Masters, if Rob and Bubba Watson and, I don't know,
Let's give Bryson DeChambeau
miss the fairway, and they're in the second cut of rough, and now you're 220 yards away from the green.
They'll still
Rob is probably going to hit, hopefully advance at 100 to 150 yards, and Bryson and the other guy I just mentioned are probably going to take their regular stroke and land it on the green. What I'm saying is, when you take something and you completely level the playing field or make everybody dead even, it's when you ruin the emphasis of what truly is the good bowler.
Who's the athlete? Yep.
So what happens at the U.S. Open every year is, yes, some of the greatest bowlers in the world always get to the top, but the bowlers that always get to the top at the U.S. Open are right-handers that curve the ball, because it's the only place on the lane that you can play at the U.S. Open when they use that flat pattern. So that's what I mean when I say, my dad hit the nail on the head when he says, so when you make something so impossible and you allow that kind of thing to happen, that's when the game, that's reasons like that why the game can't be in the Olympics.
Here's what it's like. It's like, okay, let's say you're on the tee at the Masters, and the normal rough, you got the first cut, the little, and then the collar, and then the actual rough. And when every right-hander tees off, that's it. And then you hit a button when a lefty comes up or something. You hit a button where all that intermediate cut is all now fescue.
Exactly.
And you make it that it's fairway or bust, and that's the only way I can interpret it. And that's unfortunate because they'll never see it that way because it's invisible. The oil's invisible. And they say, why not just hit the pocket? But dude, you painted such a good picture that we should, I'm telling you, fucking bookmark this spot, but talk about this in like a month again, because this is something that can be ventured. I'm not kidding. This is definitely something that can be at least brought up and explained as far as like why the whole lefty righty thing. Phil Mickelson isn't pissed that Tiger Woods is a righty because they still have to hit the ball, but there's no button that all of a sudden drags up this giant fescue.
Exactly.
So big topic right there.
Huge topic. And I'll talk about that for days.
I was going to continue talking about the U.S. Open and all that, but I guess since we went long tonight, we'll save that for next week. Just to wrap up the Players Championship.
Yeah, who the fuck won anyways?
Jason Belmonte won.
Good for him.
He defeated Sean Rash 210 to 201 in a hotly contested match. This is Belmonte's 8th major. Is that correct, Johnny? Am I off on that one?
14th. What are you kidding me?
14th.
14th.
Let me-
14th.
Fuck! I fucking knew that. Oh, fucking cock, fucking ass.
I actually,
fucking crotch.
I set Ocho up on that on purpose.
Let's see how bad Ocho is here. Do you know who's tied for second with 10? Because if you know the answer to this, you're really becoming a
I hate it
screwy
because I
individual.
feel like it's Pete and Earl, and I hate to say it.
Oof, you should leave now.
Yeah, see it. At
Nice work.
DDR Ocho.
Why do you know all this? You should never know this.
At the DR Ocho
I
on
hate
Twitter.
You, Jack, God damn it.
No, you are.
Go ahead now. Give my Twitter.
At the DR Ocho on Twitter. I'm not even going to mention Johnny's Twitter because it's never going to happen. It's just that
That's not true.
It'll be at something.
It'll be at the JPZ.
I like that. Yeah.
Oh, dude, don't do that. We're never. Fuck that.
How do you spell that? Is it easy E? Is it EASY? You got to make something that people can fucking.
He stole that off of
spell
Easy
out.
Pass. That's all. He's not going to take that.
Well, he knows all about New Jersey, so. Look, we will get Johnny Jr. on Twitter. I know it's a running joke on this show for the last 6 to 8 weeks, but we will get it done. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at RadRobGaming. Johnny Petraglia Jr. is on Facebook under Johnny Petraglia, just so there's no confusion there. And, because his dad's not on Facebook. But I think his dad might actually get on Facebook before Johnny gets a Twitter account.
His dad might get Twitter.
That I can guarantee you will never happen.
Senior might get Twitter. Brunswick might start him a Twitter account before Junior does.
I bet you
that would legit ruin my dad's life.
It would. It really would.
That would ruin my dad's life comparative to like other people's true heartbreak.
I don't know. He wouldn't answer it. He could just because he answers text messages. He's not bad at that. He actually texts.
Oh no! If he knew that something was created, his personal information was out in the public, he'd lose his fucking gourd.
My dad's the same way. My dad doesn't. He has a Facebook account, but he doesn't want to go on it because he doesn't want them to know what he likes or what he does or where he's from.
Oh, yeah, because everybody wants to know who the fuck Francois Senior is as opposed to Johnny Petraglia Senior. What a dick!
How are you undermining my father like that? Disgracing the good goddamn name of Dirk J. Francois. You son of a bitch.
Is Dirk?
Yeah, it must be a 40s thing. I don't know.
No, I did. There was a dude that plays guitar, Dirk Hellish.
Yeah, and remember Dragon Slayer, the old game, like Dirk the Daring or some shit like that.
No, you're just a dick.
You remember that game, Moach? You used to play it all the time in the arcade.
Is that the one that would look like a cartoon?
Yes, Dragon Slayer. You had to make
that. Never saw it.
Now you played it. Guys, we appreciate your support. We'll be back next week. I think we'll be back next week. Who knows? Maybe we won't. Maybe something will come up. Maybe the internet will go down. You know what?
Why would you say that? If they made it this far, yes, we'll be back next week.
Just in case his wife decides to hang out by the reset button
his
for
wife
another day.
sits on the fucking reset button for fucking 4 hours again.
It's because she hates me. We recovered on my Monday show that she hates me. So that's why she.
Everybody knows that already. That's not news.
I have to end on a surprise. Ocho, do you want to give?
Surprise, your wife hates you.
No, do you want to give Johnny the news, or do you want me to do it?
You do it.
Really, you don't want to talk about it?
Not at all.
All right, Johnny. Johnny and I were talking off air. I told him that Ocho here was going to have a surprise, and I didn't want to. I wanted to save Johnny's reaction for the show.
How do I have a surprise if you were talking about it?
Shut the fuck up. This past Sunday, on a show called Bromance with Vince Russo, former WWE writer during the Attitude Era, and the amazing, incomparable Dr. Ocho. Ocho had nothing to talk about because they hadn't done a show in months, so he needed something to kind of, get some buzz going on because they had nothing to talk about. Ocho, number one.
I had said I didn't see The Godfather. That's
Okay.
all. It was just a little
Let me set it up. Let me set it up, and
You're
you can
not
knock it
doing
out.
anything right at all.
Let me set it up. You can knock it out. All right.
There's nothing to knock out. I'm getting out of this show. Good night, everybody.
Number one, Ocho has never seen The Godfather, which we can do a whole show about that some other time.
We should talk about bowling.
Number two, Ocho found out that Quarantine Lady is 8 weeks pregnant.
What?
Ocho is going to be a daddy.
That's not a fucking joke, is it?
Not a joke.
Dude, really?
What?
Oh, shut the fuck up, Ocho. Come on. It's already been announced to the entire world on 2 different
What
shows
the
now. So
fuck? Why are you spreading rumors?
don't be a dick. Don't Don't be a dick like that.
You need to be serious for a minute. Is that true? Congratulations. That's awesome.
You can see him smiling through his mask. His eyes are getting real squinty right now. So
Leave my squinty eyes alone, man.
Yeah.
Quit fucking with me.
And The Godfather, have you seen like bits and pieces?
Yes,
or like
of course I have. See, look, this is what's so great. 2 seconds is all it took. And then we got to go to
you can't just
the
like,
real
I've
issue.
never seen any of it.
No,
'cause
I know the premise. I know freaking Adrian was in it from Rocky. I get it. I just never saw it in its entirety, and I need to. I got to, and we're fixing to.
10 points. Give me Adrian's real name.
Talia Shire. Don't fuck with me like that.
Is that going to be your daughter's name? Talia?
My son? No.
It should be.
Oh, you already know it's a boy?
No.
No, he has no idea. Yeah.
I have no
You
clue.
hope it's a boy.
I hope it's a healthy boy or girl boy.
Would you name them Nueve? Or Siete?
I get that now. That's fucking. I don't even know Spanish.
I don't remember if it's 7 or 9. I couldn't think of it.
I gave you both
Right?
options.
that is
when you
fucking
started
hilarious. Or 6 to 8 would be funny if you just. Yeah.
counting. Or actually, you should call her Cinco.
There you go.
Ocho Cinco.
Ah, see what he did there?
Why do you keep calling it her?
It's gonna be her.
I think it's going to be a
we-
girl.
we-
I think
Third
it's
fucking
we
time.
both know it's gonna
change
be
your
her.
life.
Yeah.
I
Dude, I'm not
think
even
you're going to have a
kidding.
girl.
No,
My
because-
shoulders
no,
are
because-
so bad. I got my glove. I shit you not, my glove is over there, and I'm fucking throwing the glove, my ball to the glove, because I want my shoulder to start loosening up. Because there's no way that I'm letting my shoulder seize up. The first thing I'm teaching him is a knuckle curve because it doesn't throw any stress on your elbow. I know this shit. I'm a fucking athlete. And I'm going to teach him how to switch hit. Not in that way. Fuck you guys. I was a switch hitter in fucking baseball. Fuck you guys.
Now let me throw this out there, and I know
You shouldn't be
exactly.
putting labels on it. Maybe you should
That's
let
true.
it
That's
decide what it wants to be.
Yeah, wait till it's 3.
Could you imagine people actually having that conversation?
Wait till it's 3, and they want to decide if they want to be a toaster or not. So, look,
Should we cut it off now? Because already everybody's been so offensive at this point.
yeah, we're gonna cut it off here,
Doesn't matter.
and we're gonna talk
I'm
about it off
offending
air
you?
because that's a
No,
big.
I don't
I mean,
mean to do that.
No, we should not do that. Leave it to me.
Oh, Jesus
Get the
Christ!
fuck
I
outta
can't even
here.
do that.
All right,
Oh yeah, I forgot. They might cancel us like Joe Rogan.
nobody's listening, like Ocho said, so you can't cancel us if nobody listens. But Ocho, congratulations, the dad to be.
No,
We're gonna
really,
talk
that's
about it
great,
off
man.
air because that's a big thing to talk about. But I want to drop that to see Johnny's
How
reaction.
about ageless and timeless, and those boys will still swim? Holy shit!
Good job. Yeah, I'm proud of your boys.
Nice work, buddy.
Guys, we'll see you next week. Another edition of Straight Up 5 right here in the Rad Rob Radio Network.
Thanks for listening to Straight Up 5. If you would like to send your questions into Johnny Jr., send us an email at straightup5@gmail.com. That's straight up FIVE@gmail.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Straight Up 5 right here on the Rad Rob Radio Network.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.